me out of here, Donald, please.
Let me have you, man!
Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide.
Norris, I asked you to let me
Tell
handle
him, Laswell, or I will.
Command has officially redesignated Farah's forces.
So that's it? What, we some kind of suicide squad?
Nothing really matters to me.
Sup fellow virgins, it's that time of year again, in which we get the chance to hear inaudible Indian music blasting through your headphones, be told off children where you should be inserting large metallic objects, and be given sex advice from a guy that can't even get out of his chair without the assistance of Mountain Dew and an injection. It truly is the most magical time of the year when a new Call of Duty comes out, and this year is no different, because war never changes. The 8th generation of consoles kicked off with a bit of a stumble for the Call of Duty brand with the release of Call of Duty Ghosts, promising revolutionary technologies and an interactivity of physically rendered fishes and a dog, leaving the story more open than a brothel in Amsterdam. But like Rocky coming out of retirement for one last fight, the fine folks over at Infinity Ward and Activision has come out swinging with the release of 2 stellar Call of Duty outings, the first being the surprisingly good Call of Duty Mobile that released a week before the main course, and this year's entry Call of Duty Modern Warfare, not to be confused with the game that defined a generation and allowed a whole new resurgence into the modern military first-person shooter, or its remake, which added a new resurgence into how greedy a corporation can truly be when you allow them to add loot boxes and COD points. This year's entry manages to take a new approach to the Michael Bay boom bang boom bang shoot fun patriotic times by managing to miss its target but still have fun taking the shot, like being a hitman working in a Build-A-Bear factory. The last entry Infinity Ward put out was the ill-received Infinite Warfare, a game that for the most part had a lot of interesting concepts and ideas that got scrapped with this one. Gone are the days of a realistic mode which saw your character have his gun shot out of his hand and legs broke so you would need to limp your way to the exit of a mission, like a scene from Monty Python claiming it was just a flesh wound, and in its place is the one-shot death routine of the old games, filling the screen with more red than someone getting a nosebleed on the period. The faction-based conflicts that erupted during the mini interludes of Infinity Warfare's campaign are scrapped in favour of a story that at points feels that the developers have just watched Suicide Squad, in the same way that the people in the Clockwork Orange just watched a projector. And gone are the days of playing a Call of Duty game on day one, and in its place is a 3-day straight marathon of watching 56GB updates and a progress bar that looks like it's on life support, only for it to get another update and start from 0%.
Good job, we'll get him next time.
The biggest change that fans of this franchise will notice upon starting the campaign is how many fan-favoured characters now come across as one-dimensional stereotypes. Captain Price, for example, a suave, sophisticated SAS operative in Call of Duty 4 that invoked the stiff upper lip attitude and bravado of the British Army, acting as a personification for what England stood for, now comes across as a psychopath without a Netflix documentary. Call of Duty used to be about the fog of war and the fear of the unknown, but now each new entry is more like a battle taking place on a sunny day at the beach while families sit back and make sandcastles. The characters feel like they should be in the pantomime shouting, "Who's behind you?" instead of the amalgamation of historical figures that made a valid point for the moment in time in which they entered the stage. What really stands out to me is the use of the famous out-of-context quotes that appear upon your death. They used to give you an insight and provoke a purpose into the feelings and thoughts of the people within that time period, which led me wanting to learn more about the famous historical figures behind the words. But now they just feel like you could fill that black screen between death and reloading a checkpoint with any old writing and you wouldn't bat an eyelid. I mean, if the words that appeared before I restarted a mission simply said, "Somewhere in Canada, a bear is having sex and loving it," quote, from a wildlife photographer, I don't think I would have actually noticed. A bit like using Captain Price as a Batman analogy, they've created a few iconic characters in the past, and so long as they say a line or two from the original game, we are meant to clap our hands and ignore the lack of character development and overall consistency within their actions and motivations. Which leads me on to the rest of our usual suspects joining our badass Brit as he shoots anyone with an accent around the world, is Bradley Cooper's American Sniper as our go-to American hero type, and Kill Bill the Resistance Fighter acting as a plot beat that ties this bow together. You know, it's kind of ironic that they create Infinite Warfare, which becomes so negatively received with its debut trailer, and then to de-escalate the failure the second time round, they steal Medal of Honor Warfighter, the most negatively received EA shooter. It's kinda like trying to steer out of a skid by crashing into a tree. You know, they throw so many enemies and factions into this tale in the hopes of a deeper meaning, in the same way that swingers throw their keys into a bowl. The plot at points feels like a direct-to-DVD DC movie with the title Blunder Woman, a tale for some kind of injustice and an excuse to fire a weapon that would have us executed for war crimes. The constant time jumps makes the overall story flow more like an episode of Rick and Morty or bloody Pulp Fiction than a simple shoot the other guys with guns tale. By the third time the aforementioned text box told me we would be seeing events from 20 years ago, I honestly thought Biff from Back to the Future was going to show up and call us buttheads. And even with a prolonged backstory, we still don't know much about our main antagonist, other than the fact he's a bit of a bastard, and looks like his day job consists of waterboarding kittens to gain information on bird-watching sites. Or he must be one evil dude. The only thing that this villain doesn't do is tie the female fighters to train tracks and walk off laughing while twirling his moustache. The overall story resembles an investigation board that detectives would probably look at in the bid to capture a mob boss than something that has any form of grandeur or deeper meaning. And in the end of the day, spoilers inbound, the main characters end up getting screwed over by their own plot. Our female rebellion fighter doesn't even become part of the iconic Task Force 141 in what must have been the most awkward conversation between her and Price, for Ross standing there gallantly in front of Captain Price and with a strong bravado proclaiming, "I have proven myself worthy and protecting my people against an imposing force invading my country. Can I join your new task force, sir?" I'm not doing either voice because that's racist. This would then be followed quickly by Captain Price shiftily looking at his feet and then mumbling out, "Oh yeah, you kind of say, I made these outfits for people with a penis, so yeah, thanks for helping and all, but I just embroidered the names Gaz and Gauss on the pockets and you'd kinda ruin my whole aesthetic. But you know, have fun looking at the rubble of your own house since we basically decimated your land." And then all fly off in a chopper somewhere. I like to hope they've left her fate ambiguous on purpose for a potential sequel, in the same way that Marvel built up its movies to Infinity War. But the story isn't everything, so thank God each mission feels like a bite-sized mini-series that you would find on Amazon Prime. At points, there are moments of bliss and tactical excellence, from breaking into a house to do some wet work or sneaking behind enemy lines to recon the area, and it's in that moral ambiguity that Call of Duty shines and leads to what creates the deeper philosophical quandaries and lengthy discussions that keep the story alive, message boards going, and YouTube channels dedicated to Call of Duty still beating. But that intellectual debate may have been thrown out the window, something that even Infinity Warfare got right. So it really is just a shame that their development office is more in line with the ethics of the Daily Bugle, running around shouting, "Get me pictures of war crimes," instead of keeping on the path to perfection. One thing that does keep you playing is simply to say, what foreign nation are they going to slag off next? It does make you question whether this tale is one of moral ambiguity and player conditioning, having us follow the orders of someone whom we perceive to be in the right, when in actuality we are the bad guys trying to dismiss our own actions for the greater good. If that strange theming and messaging of this campaign results in that line of reasoning, then this is actually really smart. Using Captain Price as a Hitler-esque figurehead that commands his squad to commit atrocious war crimes under the mindset that we are stopping the greater evil, when in fact we are the evil that needs to be stopped, thus giving credence to the ever-present question, I guess this could be any old despot. I could be wrong, but I think this is the only Call of Duty to my knowledge in which we never play from the villain's point of view. In the Black Ops games, we had that paradigm shift, and then in Black Ops 2, we were allowed to take the helm of the main antagonist. The World War II games allowed us to see the conflict from the Axis point of view, and even the original Modern Warfare invoked the fear of the Middle East and the Iraq conflict with the cold opening of that game, and no Russian in Modern Warfare 2. The more I think about it, this entry in the franchise feels more like a story of a priest walking into a nursery, and it's up to you to decide how that story ends and what conclusions we take from that information. It does look like this campaign was cut up by Edward Scissorhands at points, which probably explains the cut to black moments that are more frequent than binge watching The Sopranos. The campaign for this entry in the franchise does tend to shift between gears of high velocity and sloth-like tendencies. It starts to feel more like you're watching the movie Speed stuck in a traffic jam. If the pacing was more refined and executed like the original Modern Warfare, it would be more easier to pick up on their themes and thematic moments. I now wonder if the game's shocking material, which at points comes across more shocking than a puppet in a school play, could have been rectified by the use of a similar game dealing with the horrors of war, most notably Spec Ops: The Line. Near the end of that campaign that's been featured on so many online lists you'd think it's a registered sex offender, your character is forced to commit mass genocide with the use of white phosphorus. But it's the aftermath that follows that allows us to feel our true impact on how we play video games. The player is attacked by civilians, and given a choice, you can either decide to take the beating and follow military procedure, i.e. don't attack the angry mob, or go full on Rambo and shoot everyone in sight, thus creating your own chaos and own shocking moment. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say here without breaking any YouTube guidelines is the fact that our band of misfits are total cats urinating near trees, and that's putting it as an acronym. Like Price says, we draw the line where we need to draw the line, and that line has been drawn in a place that allows the developers just enough controversial content to still sell in countries with stricter laws. Speaking of which, on the 28th of October 2019 saw a mass dislike of this year's entry and its first foray into controversy, with Russian players leaving a wave of negative reviews after many vodka-based video game enthusiasts noticed a mission that hit too close to home with a subtle rewriting of history in a segment that mirrored a real-world event in 1991 known as the Highway of Death. This led to many players putting down the score of this year's entry with the phrase "yet another American propaganda piece." But to play devil's advocate, you could simply say it's Call of Duty. They are notorious for taking something that happened in real life and then blaming someone else. They're basically like asking old people their thoughts on foreign nations or what they think of gay marriage. In fact, the new Call of Duty opens with a London-based terrorist attack which happened in real life, but the game blames the Russians. And Modern Warfare 2 had the critically acclaimed mission No Russian, which happened in a Cabal military airport in real life, and yet again the game blames the Russians by asking you to gleefully mow down civilians. I think the only villain that Call of Duty got right was Kevin Spacey, a character he kept on playing in real life until the courts dropped the sexual allegations against him. So at this point, I'm no longer shocked when they rewrite history. It's basically what game companies do without thinking of the consequences to the people involved. On a more fun and frenetic note, Spec Ops makes its triumphant return to the franchise since the last Modern Warfare game in 2011. And now a whole new generation can experience the post-traumatic stress disorder of trying to make it to the first objective while you are bombarded by enemies. Yo, these dudes be so far up your arse half the time you'd think you're watching a sex ed film on Pornhub. The overall idea of a large-scale, multi-layered mission working like a Division 2 raid seems like a charming idea at first, before you fire one shot off in anger and are left with a mission failed screen before you can even blink. Some balancing may need to be done here, and it's a shame that the game didn't have more updates to fix that, instead of worrying about security issues and hackers in a Call of Duty game. Ooh, perish the thought! Each week since launch, we have seen a new update adding in dedicated urban night maps so you can experience the combat of a fox, and the return of kill confirmed, alongside Call of Duty taking a piece of the Battlefield pie by now adding ground war maps that bear a striking similarity to the maps found within Battlefield 4. Data miners have already uncovered 38 more maps ready to be released, so it's just a matter of waiting and wanting more. And then, just like the Kool-Aid mascot on cocaine, the Battle Pass burst onto the main menu, with the most egregious microtransactions to hit a $60 video game to date. The only explanation for this expensive COD point catastrophe is the fact the developers are being held hostage by Scrooge McDuck after the Beagle Boys robbed his mansion like a scene from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which at least means this year's entry is now an official Call of Duty experience. The only thing that's missing from this year's entry is the obligatory Eminem song that loosely corresponds to the action found within the trailer, but in actuality is only picked to emphasise how down with the kids Activision is, so I guess it's up to me to rectify that problem. Maybe I'm just cynical to think anything's political, but it won't news a true individual. It's hypocritical to say it life and I think it's biblical at the end of your days praying for God for a miracle. Wait a minute, the song didn't have anything to do with war. Okay, so here's some facts to enlighten you all. The first conflict was started many thousand years ago between Homo sapiens and Forster and Neanderthals, and the first use of mustard gas was deployed in World War I, a year after the dust cleared in the Battle of the Somme. You never thought the game could change but players remain the same age when enraged by words on a page or passing mark on a content mean different than life and death conflict by game chess, keeping cards close to your chest when vested in 1970 bulletproof vest. Because a person's patience doesn't go so far. It lasts about as long as a war in Anglo-Zanzibar. Over 2.7 billion shells have been fired in anger since French invented them. The greatest generation is at an end and the new one takes offence from them? It's mayhem, and not resembles reality. I'm staring asking how these assholes find logic and gravity of any situation that faced lately and complain because of lifestyle. I mean, they can't have babies, they shouldn't faze me, and yet it doesn't. Don't join your vegan plant-based microwave egg supplement. Margie me with a cat and wear a hat and enter a soul shifted like a hipster hunchback after his insurance tax failed to pay out in a Notre Dame fire pact. I'm skilled in areas that don't get me a job, I can't deal with reality, so I'm blaming God. I feel at odds with the way the world's treating me. Be like dating Chris Brown because the world's constantly beating me. Okay, boomer, remember that was a bomb and not something that I just said to your mom in most raps I used to sell video games. How does mental abuse correspond to inflicting physical pain? The company's frantically falling in line to crop a lyric that works in time with a production line and be like, he mentions revolvers and we're making a West End. The next day be like, Kanye West is perfect for X-Men. Be like picking a guy dog to farm and still be the only one getting some action. Some setting off action since music's now missing in action. Half the YouTube channels out here have already covered this damn game. But not to complain or dismiss the words of others, but that one of these Australian, American or British born brothers borrowed a rhyme like slim as a punchline to make the trifecta of called the status quo this time. Thought not, guess he lost the plot. I'm just old school, submitting reviews to some like it hot, like a comic on board the Titanic just here to rock the boat momentarily till the boat gets lost. Instead of a premature influence that has a brain like a crack joke in wartime, truth is so precious. So tell me, when the sponsor dropped their pants, did your face get energetic? Did he tell you to put the night vision on because you're going dark every day? Shadow Legend, Squarespace, or Surfshark? If we desire to avoid insult, we must repel it. I guess that was a bridge too far, so allow me to end it. You vomited to get it. Why? You don't want to be like Eminem at 90 singing my name is and then forgetting it in the same night.